Hi, my name is Ronald Griffin,
I'm Cameron Hall.
And I'm Eric Merriman.
and this is our discussion on in teaching digital natives by Mark Prinsky. To start off the discussion, I'll ask you guys this first question.
All right.
Is education just for tomorrow, or is it for the rest of the students' lives? Cameron?
I think that it is for the rest of their lives, but I think that it's more of what you take from learning as instead of like specific subjects. That is for the rest of your lives. Whereas maybe learning how to add or something is just like basic subjects is for tomorrow.
I believe that it depends on what you're teaching. If you're teaching a life skill, then it's going to be for their life. If you're teaching just something to pass the test, then education's for tomorrow. So you got to learn what the student needs to know for life, what the student needs to know for tomorrow, for the test, and then, of course, for life.
Yeah.
So it just all depends on what curriculum you're teaching, what subject in the curriculum you're teaching.
Yeah. And I agree. I think that it's mostly for the rest of their life. You have aspects of education that are going to be for tomorrow, one day to the next, but, what you get out of education you are going to take with you for the rest of your life. And, having a good, strong, solid foundation in education is what's really going to affect students' lives moving forward. And, Penske does talk about that and having, things that will affect students positively and, making education good by the use of technology. But, that's not the only thing, but that is something that he did focus on in this book. So,
And I do want to point out, like, a lot of things that we're teaching just for tomorrow is more elementary based, middle school based, and high school based education.
Yeah.
Stuff that we're teaching for the rest of the students' lives are more for college. I do think that we need to start looking at high school and middle school and start teaching for the students' rest of their lives. I know that they may not know what they want to do or want to be, but at least we can give them a general purpose and a general direction.
Right.
For the rest of their life.
And I think that adding some real life situations and how we teach and what exactly we teach will give them that step into what they really want to do.
And that's something that Penske talked about with technology. Technology. One of the good things about technology is that it's a good thing for the future, and it's not just for tomorrow.
Right.
It will positively affect students for the rest of their lives, and being able to use it correctly as society is moving more towards technology-based things. That it's a good byproduct there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Second question. When we see our students bored, do we turn our faces and blame them, or do we change as teachers?
Well, change as teachers, don't. It would be wrong to blame the student on really anything, unless, of course, like it's something that they're doing wrong. But if they're bored, that's not them doing wrong. It's us doing wrong. So we need to speak out more. We need to change how we do things. And technology is one of those ways. So something like a smart board, something like project-based learning, that we can do something that is visualizing, not just audio type learning. So it's something that I do believe that we need to incorporate to motivate our students with technology.
And that's a great point you made, especially with the motivation. Boredom goes hand in hand with motivation. If you're motivated, you're not going to be bored, and that's something that Penske talked about. And how can we get students motivated? And one of the ways, and something that he talked about, was getting into their passions. Getting into passions of the students. And here's a couple things that he did say that I want to mention. He did make the point of that not a lot of students want to be lectured to, which lecturing in some circumstances can be boring. Now, that is a blanket term, I feel like, and that is one of the points that I disagree with Penske there. I personally like lectures to an extent. I think that a lot of times when you talk about lectures, it has a lot to do with the instructor. if the instructor is not a very good teacher, or if they just stand there and stare at a PowerPoint and or just read word for word out of a book for a lecture, that of course is going to lead to boredom.
Right.
And it is difficult in a sense when you're talking about teachers to tap into passions of students with certain subjects.
Right.
But if you're able to do so, then you can make it work. Another thing, use the tools of their time. That's something that Penske said. That's technology based, obviously.
Right.
With
can't use anything ahead of time.
right.
Using Twitter and Facebook.
Right, Twitter, Facebook, things like that. If you can
YouTube.
incorporate those kind of things, you can get students motivated, and be well on your way to eliminating the boredom.
Because they use those tools every day, like
Right,
Twitter, Facebook,
exactly.
social media,
Exactly.
YouTube. They browse it, so why not use it?
Which is another point that Penske made about teachers needing to be familiarized with these things.
Right.
Right.
You've got to
We can't help them if we don't know
exactly.
ourselves.
It's a basic concept, just like teaching. You can't teach a subject without knowing and having mastery over that subject. So, same thing with tools. You've got to be, up to date and, know what's going on with the tools to use them to eliminate that boredom.
And that brings up a point of mine. Do we need to teach them things that we agree that we don't need to teach them, like that they don't need to know, except in order to pass a test? So that more goes along the lines of, do we teach for tomorrow or do we teach for the future, like just for a test?
I just think we teach I think we teach for the future while teaching for tomorrow, because we have to teach for tomorrow. That's what we're supposed to do. But we also need to incorporate things that they know, things that they're familiar with, real life situations that they can relate to, which would in turn teach them for the future. And I think that goes with the lecturing, incorporating discussion with that as well. Because I don't like to do lectures. I would want to talk with my class and we just have a class discussion. So I just think that we should incorporate discussion and let them have a part in teaching each other and teaching themselves.
I do think that, teaching just for a test, it has good and bad. I think that one of the things that Penske mentioned was you need to teach things, in the past, which can be boring, but, that are very testable and easy to test, but also test towards the future. And I think that one of the points he also made for, testing and things of that nature is specifically for me, I'm going into science, so one of the things he talked about is that you need to have things of the past of like disciplines and certain things in science. There's disciplines you have to learn before you can move forward. But
Same
also,
thing
but also, and this is it's related to testing, but you also need to get into the now, to the cutting edge stuff. Some of the stuff that we've talked about before, even before preparing for this, is that many science classes that I've taken and things, very rarely is anything discussed about what's going on in the cutting edge, what's going on right now, and when you incorporate those kind of things, whenever you do graduate and you are moving on to be a teacher, you're more informed, you're more well-rounded,
Right.
And that's something that's important, as teachers starting in, bringing up those current events, is important because, it will make them more well-rounded. They'll be moving forward with not only the disciplines and the baseline of what they're learning, but also new things, fresh things, to have fresh opinions and more to discuss about,
And I do believe that it goes along the lines of what Dr. Strange, our wonderful teacher, is talking about, that we need to stop birth-back education.
Right.
Just don't parrot what the teacher says. That don't teach just to pass a test. Don't birth back our students.
Because later on in life, it's going to be more than just passing the test.
Right.
Absolutely. Did you guys have any other thoughts that you wanted to add to the discussion? Any other ideas or?
Yeah, stop teaching just for tomorrow. We need to start teaching for the future, to set our kids on the right track of what they need to know for life, how they are able to function in social society, what they can do for a job. Just things what they need to know, not just for a test, but for life.
And
lessons.
our classrooms need to be diverse. They need to be diverse in how we teach them, whether we use technology or basic lecturing or discussion. We need to be able to reach each student in however they want to learn, when they want to have a discussion with the class or lecture or whatever it might be.
I feel like, you know, a lot of what Penske was talking about, you know, and kind of a conclusion, kind of, you know, sum up some of the things is how as teachers we need to change and how teaching needs to change. And I like a lot of the ideas that were brought forward, especially with the project-based learning. I like the ideas of, you know, using questions to drive teaching.
Right.
I do. Penske mentioned in there that, you know, and I think we talked about it lecturing. Really using questions in the right way can really improve
Right.
teaching, and it can improve us as teachers as well. You know, we're that solid post to get, you know, these students to move forward, and, you know, we're that rock to come back to if they have any questions or the direction they're going. I think that a mixture of lecture based with questions, driving questions, is will improve you know, the learning experience for these students, because the questions gets them out there learning, you know, on their own, the critical thinking, and really learning how to research, because research, of course, is a very important, you know, aspect in most careers. And you know, I think that by mixing in those questions, that'll really improve the learning process and make us better teachers too,
Because
getting
it
them more
gives us
involved.
Right.
It gives us a chance to learn from our students as well. And
Yeah. That's what the
how to train.
partnership with technology is
Yeah.
all about. Learning with our students, have our students learn from us. It's a partnership.
And that's the thing, especially with discussions, because with the questions they invoke the discussions, and with discussions that gets the students' voice out there, because that's one of the things that Penske talked about. Students want their voices to be heard, their opinions to be heard, and to be respected. That's one of the ways to do it. As a discussion, you really invoke that ability for them to get their voices heard and feel respected and like their opinions matter.
I think that about concludes it.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.